Welcome back, Statliners, to another episode of Bats and Stats presented by ScoutTheStatline.com. I myself, Brian, as always, here I am, my compadre Ross R. Jensen, and we got another guest back for the second time. Run it back, Ryan. Run it back, Ryan Epperson.
Yes, sir.
Nice to have you back, my friend. How are you?
Good. Everything's good.
Good. So we're gonna do some stuff tonight. We're gonna, take a look back at the season, see how everything went. Maybe do a couple victory laps on a few people that we suggested. Kind of be proud of ourselves. Before we do any of that, I do got to say I am going to have straight H2O tonight. I got a little bit of a health issue going on. Nothing to be concerned about. We're going to be just fine. But I'm going to let these guys drink beer while I sit back and giggle.
Perfect.
I will drink beer. And I think Ryan's got a whiskey drink tonight, right?
I forgot
bourbon tonight.
I forgot.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, Ryan, and then I'll introduce mine after.
Sure. I got actually just picked this bottle up yesterday after my softball game. It's from let's see, Nelson Brothers Distillery from out of Nashville. I went to Nashville a few years ago and visited their distillery, and I was always impressed, and it finally made its way northeast. So I was able to pick up a bottle. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what are you giving it? Is it a go get 'em, or is it
it's a go get 'em for me. Probably 7.5, 8 out of 10. It's solid. And it's in the $30 to $40 range. So it's not super expensive.
Hell yeah.
This day and age, hey, that's cheap.
Yeah, Jesus.
Okay.
Any kind of different flavor in there? Is it like a cherry barrel or anything?
No, I'm not a big fan of the cherry cask or the wine casks or anything. I just give it to me straight.
Nice. And you, Ross, what do you got,
All right.
my good
So
sir?
I just took a sip of water, but that's not what I'm drinking for the show. I do have a beer here. So I went this week with 90 shilling.
Oh
Have
yeah.
you guys ever had 90 shilling?
Yes, I have.
No.
Okay, so this isn't it's not a totally unknown beer. It's regional, probably. I know it's at least regional in this area, but it might be further out there. I don't know. But this is from Odell Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm going to give it a little pour here so you can see the hue. All righty. So I have had this beer many a times, and I actually have kind of a backstory with this one. We've talked on this podcast before about New Belgium Brewery. There's the beer. It's kind of a golden color. It is see-through. But we've talked about New Belgium Brewery and going to Fort Collins. Well, another brewery in Fort Collins is Odell Brewing. And I mean, you go to Fort Collins and you visit New Belgium, and it's like an experience, man. That place is so advanced. It's so cool, and I'm sure it's way more advanced than it was when I went a long time ago. But Odell Brewing is like a competitor of theirs, right? Like they might not call each other competitors, but they are. It's another microbrewery in Fort Collins, and it's much less advanced. It's much more like a regular brewery. But we went there, and I just loved their beer. For whatever reason, they have like a version of every New Belgium beer, but they're a little bit different. They have their own spins on them. And I always just like the Odell stuff. And maybe it's just in my head because I'm rooting for the underdog or something, but I quite enjoyed it. So that's 90 shilling. I'm going to give it a sip, and I'll read you the description here too. That's really good. It's very balanced. It's like a kind of caramely. This is what the description says. It says, named for the Scottish tax on high quality beer, 90 shilling is a medium bodied amber ale with a distinct burnished copper color and deeply pleasant aroma. We think you'll find our flagship ale brilliantly refreshing and worth every shilling. This was one of the first microbrews that I really kind of fell for, So this is kind of an intro to beer for me in some sense.
Yeah.
So really good stuff. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's interesting. They label it an amber ale, and that's what I always thought of it as. But when I've gone out to places and seen it, I've seen it a lot listed under Scottish ales. So named after the Scottish tax kind of makes sense. Anyway, really good beer. I recommend everybody go get it.
It's
Nice.
Definitely, you got to get an Irish jig song on while that's playing. Like you get some Flogging Molly going or something, because
yeah.
man, it'll put you in the mood, and it is time to rock.
Yeah. And it's just like a great drinker too. Like I could drink a 6-pack of this pretty easily.
Yeah.
What's
Pretty
the
big fan of
alcohol
myself.
content?
I don't think it's particularly strong. Let me see if they've got it listed on here. 5.3%. So
Yeah, those are all day.
Yeah, it's like a session type of beer, right? I mean, it's not a session, but it's like one.
Yeah.
Might as well be one.
Oh, yes. Okay, guys. Well, there's our drinks of the pod. I do want to get into just a little bit of a recap of the major league season. A few things that have been bonkers. A few things that we just got to talk about. I think number one, we got to talk about 4 hitters, and 3 of them I know everybody's been talking about. The 4th, I don't know if anybody really has given enough credit to. I'm kind of surprised about that. Maybe it's just because it's been deaf on my ears, but the 3, Shohei, of course, Shohei is unreal. Ronald Acuna is just lights out right now. Mookie Betts has had one hell of a season, and nobody ever talks about Corey Seager. Corey Seager's had a big year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to highlight those 4 because they all have over 1 OPS.
Okay. And we had talked about these guys. I want to lead with Acuna, if you don't mind, because I think he is doing simply incredible things. And I just have a couple things that I want to touch on.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you guys share whatever you have. The biggest thing. I mean, you've seen the bonkers numbers: batting .336, slugging .586, 37 home runs and 66 stolen bases. He could go 40-70.
He hit 2 more home runs tonight.
2 and a stolen base.
Wow. Jeez. And nobody has done 30-60, right? So he's going to pioneer 30-60, and then it looks like 40-70 if he gets there.
Yeah.
So simply incredible season. And it starts 100% starts with one of the most impressive growths I've ever seen in his strikeout rate. I mean, I shouldn't say growth. Growth isn't the right word. Growth in a positive direction, but he cut his strikeout rate from 23.6% to 11% this year.
That can't be
12%.
sustainable, though.
He cut it down 12%. It's insane.
78 walks and 78 strikeouts.
I don't know if I've ever seen that kind of exponential growth over season. Just those rates are pretty sticky. They don't change that much. Usually you can improve them a little bit over your career, but
so we can all agree this is his career year, right?
Career year for sure. Well,
what is he? What was he? 26? He's only 25. Yeah,
but I mean, he has done great work cutting his strikeout rating down, but to 11%. I mean, I'm sure it'll go back up. This is the best you'll ever see him, which is awesome. I mean. But,
we should talk about that because the walks and the strikeouts are the 2 most, to me, consistent sort of variables within somebody's profile over time. So if he's actually made a tangible adjustment, I mean, maybe that's what he is now. And if he is, that's like an incredible player. That's number 1 dynasty player without a doubt.
Oh, for sure.
There's bound to be a little bit of regression. I just can't, you can't just say full bore, but it's so impressive. 30% strikeout rate when he was 22 to 11% now. So
it's insane.
And that's in 606 at bats. I mean, that's not a fluke. That's a lot of bats.
Yeah.
Only 78 strikeouts. Yeah, I have to chime in. Like what he's doing, and it was. I walked into the bedroom. I had just turned on the Atlanta game. First pitch hadn't been thrown yet. I went into the bathroom to kind of relax, and I walked out, and Nathan, my son, goes, "Oh, Acuna hit a bomb." And I was like, "Oh yeah, oh hum." First pitch of the game, like, and I didn't even flinch. I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, ho hum." Just
Yeah.
natural now.
It's another day.
Yeah. But yeah, 2 more tonight. He hit. Unreal. I guess unless you guys want to talk a little, like just crown him and say he's the best player, we can talk about him a little bit more, or we can talk
Continue
about
gushing.
what Shohei did this year, because obviously he's done now. Okay, I'll throw one at you guys. Just a quick question: where's Shohei going? Is he
So
staying home?
I had mentioned on another pod on Dynasty's Child recently that I think he's going to end up in Seattle.
Yep. I've stated it multiple times. I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to Seattle, and it's just a hunch in my belly. But I think it's like signed, sealed, and delivered. He's going to Seattle.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a pretty logical destination.
Yep.
It seems like that's the place that a lot of guys from Japan are drawn to. So
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
Ichiro, so yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Boston. I guess there's some link between one of the owners and Otani with New Balance or something I was reading, and with Yoshida there, I think there's a connection, but I hope that Otani leans to Seattle.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't have a lot of like opinions on that, but I see that as Seattle as a very possible destination.
Okay.
But great season by Otani too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've now come to expect it, right? Like it's not even we're not surprised anymore. It's just like, okay, he's 1A and 1B with Acuna as being the best player in baseball.
Well, he's not going to have pitching next year. So
Right.
That's gonna hurt his dynasty value for a season.
Does it hurt his dynasty value? I mean, he hit 44 home runs and 20 stolen bases.
It's league
incredible.
context.
It's incredible, no doubt. But if you're just comparing his hitting, there's at least competition.
Yeah.
If you have both, get out of here.
I'm a little worried. I mean, I still think he's going to be great. But for pitching wise, especially, second Tommy John, he's already 29. It's creeping up into that age where I don't know how long of a lead they're going to give him. And if somebody goes out and signs him for $500 million, they might not want him to pitch as much if his bat's more valuable. So I think that's one thing he just had surgery today too, actually, I read. And I think that's one thing to pay attention to is who signs him and what they say when they sign him. Because obviously he still wants to pitch and hit, but I don't know if it's realistic for him to pitch as much as he has.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because going back just a few years ago probably, I was of the opinion that he was a better pitcher than a hitter.
Sure.
And I think now we're kind of seeing that move the other direction. He's great at both, but he looks like he's a better offensive force. So you're right. Maybe you want to protect that a little bit.
Does he have to start, or can he close in DH?
I think you can close in DH. I don't see. I mean, they do that in college all the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. And maybe I'm just having a brain cloud. With Otani, he doesn't have to substitute off DH to come in and close.
Right.
Nope.
Right. Okay.
So that would be interesting, though, if a team decided to start using him in that capacity, where he's kind of a guy they bring in when maybe their staff is strapped,
Yeah.
and they need somebody to plug some innings. All of a sudden, you got one of the best pitchers in the league coming in just to plug innings. That's an interesting proposition in itself.
I don't know how realistic it is though, because with a starter's workload, you can plan around that a lot easier. And if he switches to relieving, it's a lot more moving pieces, and arm care routine is different and everything. And I don't know if that is feasible. I don't know what all goes into it. But man, if he could close and hit 40 home runs a year, and that'd be awesome.
40 saves and 40
40
home
saves,
runs a year.
40 home runs.
I got to ask the question: how is it that Ohtani has had 2 injuries where he could no longer pitch, but he could still hit? That's happened twice now. That's really interesting to me, because you see hitters go out with similar injuries and they're just like, we got to get the surgery. They're out for a year. They don't keep playing like Ohtani has now twice. So
yeah,
just fascinating.
Yeah.
Can still swing the bat, can't throw the ball. Anyway, I mean, Ryan, you probably know a lot more about that kind of thing than I do, but it seems like if my arm was blowing out, I feel like I would have a hard time swinging a bat.
I mean, it's not like he's going to be jumping in, a week after surgery to be able to swing a bat. I mean, he's going to be off, 6 months, before he has to swing that bat. So structurally wise, you're not coming over the top going like this and having that pop where you bat, you don't really get that full extension on your elbow.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a shoulders, there's a lot more issues like you see with Tatis this year. I mean, he's having a down year because it's shoulders. But with an elbow, it's less affected. Obviously, with when Harper came back, he had some issues to begin with, but I mean, he's back to being Bryce Harper now.
Luckily, I threw 70 miles per hour, so blowing out my arm was never a concern.
True that. Okay, but the big one that I want to talk about, Corey Seager. And Corey Seager's had one hell of a year. I mean, just a really, really big year. And with his injury history and stuff like that, that's probably why nobody is real. I guess that should even add on top of it that he's hasn't had the greatest of health years, going on. I'm just really surprised by those numbers. 31 home runs, doesn't steal bags, but batted .332, OBP of 393, slug 641. Those are great numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's having a remarkable season. It's interesting because he was the bona fide top prospect at one point. This guy should have massive hype always following him. And he's had a really good career, really solid when he's been healthy. But to your point, he's missed so much time. So I think we're finally seeing what he's truly capable of. I mean, there's going to be some regression.
Yeah.
His BABIP is 347. It's pretty up there. You can do that for a year, but not a career, So there's probably some regression, but I mean, it's a great season.
Yeah, agreed. Shout out to Corey Seager.
Heck yeah.
Mookie Betts has been incredible this year again. And then of course I sent this out on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that Matt Olson hitting 52 home runs for the Atlanta Braves, and that's a franchise record. It shouldn't have shocked me because that's a lot of bombs, right? But I'm still I'm really surprised about with it. So much history in the Braves organization that 52 bombs was their franchise record.
Has to be Andrew Jones. 50.
Can't think of anyone else.
So yeah, incredible season by him. Freddie Freeman just keeps plugging along. How about the out of nowhere, in my mind, Yandy Diaz?
Oh yeah, he had a great season.
Wow. Especially for not having any power throughout his career. He's hit 20 bombs, batting .323. That's a great season from Yandy Diaz.
He was just working on the pipes, and he's finally got them built up to where they need to be.
Huge arms. Incredible.
Yeah, my God. I feel like he kind of his power tailed off as the year went on. He's kind of went on these streaks before.
Yeah.
Never as long, but
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's tailed off a little bit, but yeah, 20 home runs from him with elite batting average.
Yeah, it tailed off, but I mean, I played against the team that owned him in my last matchup, and he was still killing me. So,
Oh yeah,
it's a tough one. Yeah, I guess the question I would have is, do you guys think it's sustainable? We're going to see regression back to the 10 home run Andy Diaz, or is he a 20 home run guy now?
I think he's a 20 home run guy. But I've thought that for a long time. I just thought it was going to happen because those arms are the size of my table.
I think 20 is about his max. I think he'll always float between 15 and 20.
I'd buy that. Yeah.
That's just hedging my bets.
And then I'm gonna skip a few guys, but Juan Soto, incredible season. Cody Bellinger, Bryce Harper, yada yada yada. Luis arrives. He got 10 bombs on the season. He got 10 bombs.
4 of them in the last week or something, right?
Yeah, 10 bombs with a 354 average.
All arise. Arise from your graves. Dude, Luis Arise is my guy. 10 home runs. That'll play in fantasy, I think. If you got, I mean, as in points, or if you got a batting average league, he's going to help you there. Yeah. You know, he's certainly not going to hurt you anyway. Yeah. OBP a little bit less, but still, you know. Well, I'm just I'm so happy. Like I rostered this guy in like every league that I had, you know, back a couple of years ago, and it's worked out okay, except for our league, Brian.
Yeah.
Where
and then I you know. The next big one that we have to highlight, Corbin Carroll. Holy buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's NL Rookie of the Year, right?
Rookie of the Year, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yep. And what about the AL side? Going Gunnar Henderson?
Has to be.
He had a great season as well.
Yeah, I think Gunnar.
Yeah.
So something I want to highlight is interesting difference.
I don't mean to cut you off real quick, but Gunnar Henderson got up to 27 home runs.
Yeah, he turned it on.
Really good.
Slow start, but he got caught on fire. And I think it's just the start of a really good career. What's interesting with those two guys that I wanted to mention is somebody had said, you know, they'd asked me, well, what do you think about Gunnar Henderson passing Corbin Carroll in WAR, wins above replacement? And I was like, interesting, you know, let me dig into that a little bit. And Baseball Reference has Gunnar Henderson. At the time I looked at it, I haven't checked it recently, but it probably hasn't changed much. Had one more win above replacement than Corbin Carroll. And if you went to Fangraphs, FWAR instead of BWAR, Fangraphs had Corbin Carroll 1 win above replacement over Gunnar Henderson. So just to kind of point out the difference, the unique differences between those two systems in WAR, similar sort of formulas, but just enough difference for there to be a total flip of 2 points.
Yep.
I kind of like to trust the Fangraphs one a little bit more. Nothing against Gunnar. He's had a great season, but I think Carroll's been incredible.
I like it. I like it a lot. Anybody else that you guys want to touch on? Any highlights that you guys want to see?
So when you stepped away, we talked about a couple guys that we wanted to touch on, but you already mentioned them.
Oh, yeah. Very good. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, those are kind of some of the things that we wanted to. I wanted to kind of bring to the limelight. The new rules effects. Obviously, the stolen bases have been out of control. How much of that do you think is the rule changes, or how much of it is that managers finally unleashed some of these guys? Because I know they're running a lot more, and it's not just because the pitcher can't throw over 5 times. It's not because the base is just an inch bigger. Like they finally just said, "Go ahead and start running," right? Or am I not thinking about it hard enough?
I think it's huge how they expanded the base. I think it was 2 inches, 2 square
Was it
inches.
2 inches? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And that's a huge, I mean, that gives you
It's
a lot more to reach out for.
Yeah.
I think the stolen bases are here to stay. Like you said, I think it's more, I think the manager just letting them run more. So it should keep going
Do
that
you
way.
Well,
do you like it? Do you like it for the game, or do you think
Oh,
it's a
man.
little bit watered down?
No, I love it.
I love it
Give
too.
me more action, man. More action.
I love it too. I think Ross is going to say, "You guys."
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, stolen bases aren't worth
No.
anything. I know, but they're
No,
fun to
no.
watch.
So I'm going to say this. First of all, I think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you expand the bases, and the reason that we've seen the explosion is, you guys are right, more people are running more often, but I think the success rate improved just enough to where managers were like, this is now an
Okay.
advantage. Whereas
Right.
going back last year, they're like, this is a disadvantage. So
Sure.
don't run. No running, because this is a disadvantage. Changes just enough to where it's an advantage, and they're like, run, go, go, go. You know, they're giving the green light because they know they're increasing their chances to score. I think there's a little bit, maybe a little bit of MLB is setting the tone too. We're changing rules. We want these guys to run. And so it's also some fan service, right? So I think the interplay between all of those things results in the explosion in stolen bases. And you're right. I think it's here to stay. We're going to see it more and more. My personal take, I think it's exciting. I think it's fun. I have this feeling that you shouldn't inorganically change baseball rules to get your desired effect. I think there's other ways to go about doing it. You know, so that's the problem that is always the problem that I have with rule changes, because to me, it messes with the historical accuracy of the game.
Were you mad when they lowered the mound?
I think I feel this way about all rule changes. I'm the
Really?
old school curmudgeon.
You want Abner
Get
Doubleday rules?
Get off my lawn, you darn
Get off my
whippersnappers.
lawn. That's right. That's right. I'm the old school curmudgeon. Did I think it was going to create a more exciting game? Yes. And you do have adjustments for this stuff, and thank God for statistical advancements. You know, WRC plus WAR, they do era comparisons too, and that's supposed to help equalize them. So there is some ways, some tools to compare eras, but you can't do it from a straight stat line sort of basis, you know, because comparing Acuna's 70 potential stolen bases to another player from a different era that stole 70 bases, it's not really an apples to apples comparison, right? So, and you know, maybe you adjust it with WRC plus or some other kind of statistical, you just adjust by stolen bases, and you find out it is, and then you know you question why you didn't run more in years past. Acuna ran plenty, so he's maybe not the best example.
Okay, so a few team things that I kind of noticed that I was a little bit surprised about, and I think you guys be along with me on this. Who saw the Baltimore Orioles do this quick? Like, we all knew that the Orioles were going to be good at one point, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody saw it this year.
Well, I thought they were a year too early last year. I didn't know they'd be this good, but I thought they'd be a lot better. So
I thought we were going to see kind of a dip and a die, a little bit of a dip this year, and then all of a sudden next year go up.
Yeah.
Shit, they might win 100 games.
Yeah, possible.
They look like they're here to stay too. I mean,
yeah. Oh, jeez.
They look like a juggernaut, which is fascinating. I love this for baseball, because how long have they been like the bottom dwellers? You know, in a really tough AL East where they're competing with huge budgets like the Yankees and the Red Sox. And then you got the Rays, who are just juggernauts, analytics, whatever, but they've been dominant playing that way for so long. So to
And
have
the
the
Blue
Orioles,
Jays.
the bottom dwellers, finally like pull out of it. I mean, it bodes well. And the Blue Jays. I didn't even mention the Blue Jays. That's a pretty strong team too. So
And the Red Sox. I mean, like, gee,
Yep.
is this sustainable for Baltimore?
it's
with the
probably
prospects they have. Yeah.
I agree.
yeah, I think it is sustainable. Will it be sustained is a different question.
Yeah.
You know, it's sustainable because we've seen this team be a powerhouse in the past, and they carried big salaries too. You know, some of those old teams from like the 90s, those
Yeah.
were good Orioles teams, and they had good players, and they didn't mind paying them. You know, they had fans come into the stadium when they were good, and then it just kind of fell apart, and they just weren't able to get their footing. So, can they? Yes. Will they? Is maybe a different story. You know,
It's unfortunate that they're in that division because those guys can just start throwing money at people. You know, the Red Sox can throw money, the Yankees can throw money, and I know the Rays haven't, but they can. They can start throwing money at people. Toronto's kind of a wild card in there. I mean,
well, the Rays are building a new stadium, so
yeah.
that opens all sorts of possibilities.
Yeah. And then the Central, I think the Central kind of turned out. I was a little bit surprised that the White Sox were so bad. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than they are. But the Twins and the Guardians, you know, being the top notch in that division. But my Tigers were much better this year than I thought they would. I thought the Tigers were going to be the screaming shits.
I'm intrigued.
They played pretty good this year.
I predict that next year they're going to win the Central.
Ooh, I like it. Ooh.
That's spicy.
You just killed one of my articles I was going to write.
So there's Torque, and then you know you're going to have Keith
Green.
Yeah, Riley Green.
Colt Keith. They have a couple good pitchers coming up.
Their pitchers got to be healthy. Up. They got to get healthy.
Yeah, agreed. That'll be interesting.
And, I mean, the AL Central wasn't the hardest to break through in, so.
The White Sox can't seem to do it, so.
No.
AL West, ho hum. Houston went in again. Seattle's right there. Texas is right there. The Angels, like, just get rid of these superstars and quit ruining their careers. I'm over it.
I will be interested to see if they trade Trout or somebody wants to go after Trout since they opened it up to see. For the first time, they said they'll listen on offers on Trout.
Well, it's a fascinating franchise if you think about it, because before the Dodgers became the Dodgers that we know today, that are kind of like the Yankees of the West.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was going to be the Angels that were that franchise, you know? They had the big names, they had the money, the capabilities. They just haven't been able to put it together.
Well, really sad. Really sad, especially with Trout.
They do have some interesting young players with Neto and Shanuel, you know. So there is some promise there, I guess, but you're right. Do they lose Trout this year and Ohtani? That'd be I mean, what do you got to look forward to? I guess you wait for those young guys to develop.
You wouldn't see many people in the stands, let's put it that way. I mean, that would really upset a lot of people. You need star power in LA, and you just lost the two superstars of baseball. Man. And then Oakland. Poor Oakland will be in Las Vegas.
They'll be back. They'll be fine. They got some sneaky talent on that team. They got some sneaky pitchers coming up. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be immediately awesome or anything like that. I think the future of that division is looking more and more like the Rangers to me than anyone.
Could be. I agree with that. I think the Rangers. Josh Young is one of my favorite players in baseball, and he's going to get healthy again next year. He was already really, really good, and he's going to get really good next year.
What was his injury this year? I forgot.
Shoulder? Labrum?
Oh.
Yeah, so sapped all the power and all that good stuff. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what it was.
I don't like shoulders.
Um, yeah, and then NL East, Atlanta, ho hum, Philadelphia played good this year. Miami came, up there. I was a little bit stunned by that. I didn't think they were going to win that many games. The Mets, I think, were worse than I was expecting, but pretty good.
I feel
And
like
then
that was a
the
prediction
Nationals.
that the Mets were going to be the division winners by me, so I really bombed that one. They turned out.
Oops.
Oops.
The NL Central was boring, in my opinion. Milwaukee, 84 games. Chicago, Cubs, 78. Cincinnati, I think we're seeing a sleeping giant in Cincinnati. I know, Ross, you're a big fan of the Reds. Um, I see a lot of potential in the Reds, man. They could be a scary good team.
They got some really good young talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Ellie's going to have to work on the plate approach, but there's superstar potential there.
Yeah.
And they got a bunch of other young guys, even some unheralded names in that system. I want to mention their minor league player of the year was Blake Dunn.
Yeah.
I mean, which that's like not one of the guys that's considered to be one of their great prospects, but if he came up and he made an impact, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. He looks interesting. He can hit the ball with authority. He stole a lot of bases. I think he had 50 some stolen bases on the season. So that's an interesting one. Missed a lot of time earlier in his career, so he's a little bit older, but it'd be fun.
And then you got Pittsburgh is showing signs of life. So there's three ball clubs that we haven't seen life out of for a while. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and the Orioles. Those three showing signs of life brings a whole nother aspect of fandom back into baseball, in my opinion. And I think it's great for baseball that those three are coming back.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
I mean, I'm
On
a
the
Pirates
flip,
fan, so
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
I mean, even though I have the Mariners hat on, but
Yeah.
I am a
So, yeah,
Pirates fan.
Reds
Pittsburgh's
fan,
looking
even
up,
though I
man.
got the Mariners hat on,
Yeah, Pittsburgh is certainly looking up, in my opinion. On the flip side of that, man, I thought St. Louis was going to be good this year. They were
I
not
think
good.
everybody did.
Jeez, I missed that one. I think I had them winning the Central.
I mean, everybody did. It's just
Yeah.
that's what they do for
right?
the past however many years. It was just Cardinals or Milwaukee. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's almost like you just put them there by default because
yeah,
you don't think that they look that good, and then they are anyway. They at least good enough to win the division. So yeah, they were kind of always in the mix. Big surprise.
Yeah. And then the West, the Dodgers loved what Arizona had been doing, and I'm glad it's already showing up. Arizona is a sneaky good franchise right now. I said that in the offseason. Really excited for Arizona. San Francisco, this is what San Francisco does. They win 500. They're 500 ball club, and then do really good in the playoffs. San Diego, huge disappointment this year, in my opinion. I thought they were a 100-win ball club. They're going to miss the playoffs, and the Rockies need to clean house. I've been saying that for 10 years. You guys can.
I'd pick the Padres to go to the
Yeah.
World Series, I think. So that's how good I am at picking teams. I better just stick to prospects. It seems to be a better niche for me.
Yeah.
And Rosenthal had a real good article come out on The Athletic today on the Padres and how AJ Preller, like, even though he's real good at picking out players, there's some issues there, and people, anonymous sources, have been kind of pointing out some things that it's like, oh, okay, well, I can see why some things aren't working the way you'd think.
I think it's a club.
Maybe me and Preller need to go bowling because it sounds like
yeah.
So you guys think it's just a clubhouse thing? Just bad blood on the inside of the clubhouse, or just bad
So
mind?
from what the article said is the clubhouse is good. Like, one of the players that got traded into the Padres clubhouse came in and he's like, he was thinking that it was going to be bad. And he's like, I walked in and it was like a good clubhouse. It's just there's mixed messages from the front office, and Preller he wants to be like Jerry Jones, so I don't know how much that affects the team per se, but it's like, it's kind of weird that they have a historic, they can't win a close ball game to save their lives.
Yeah, the talent is off the charts, but something is missing, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's not quantifiable, at least.
Right. I'm still going to stick by him. Baseball is a game of ups and downs, so maybe it's just a down year. When you got those kind of talents, as long as you keep them, Tatis and Soto, come on, get out of here. Build around those guys.
You got to win, though.
You got to win. Snell is a Cy Young candidate this year, and they still.
Man, that's somebody that I'd like to talk about. I know you just mentioned Snell, but Steele. Man, Steele is a good pitcher for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Great season.
He's a lot better than I thought he would be.
Yep.
He just flat out misses bats. That's it.
Yeah. No, he knows how to pitch.
Yeah. You don't need to have blow away stuff. You can just pitch.
I remember not too long ago using him as like a streamer too, and thinking nothing of it. And then being disappointed because he was bad when I would stream him. It's like, this guy I'm never touching again. Oops. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? With that, do you guys have any wins that you want to hang on your heads for the season? Anything that came across that you were just like, this is my guy, and everybody should listen to me?
I've been touting Davis Schneider for the longest, I think since May. I've been talking about him, and to see him come up and just blow the freaking doors off the MLB, it just it feels pretty cool. I mean, obviously I have no bearing on it, but it was cool to pick him out through the Scout the Statline leaderboard, and like, man, why isn't this guy getting a freaking chance? And then lo and behold, the front office the article comes out and saying, well, he was a 28th round pick. He didn't get a lot of chances. Like, well, shit. So that felt pretty good. That's probably my biggest win this year. Love it.
Ross?
Oh, I mean, I'll just go on all day if you give me the floor. I mean, the one I said on X.com, if we're calling it that now, was Junior Caminero. I was huge on this guy, and a lot of people, I got a lot of grief when I put this out there. Not a lot, but a couple voices that were saying, he was a breakout like circa 2022 or earlier. And it's like, okay, like fine. But nonetheless, I thought he was going to move way far up prospect lists. And lo and behold, he did. And me personally, I think he's still a little underrated because I have him number 2 prospect. I think he's debatably the number 1 prospect. Some people have him 3, 4, 5, he's way up there, but still, I think, be a little higher on this one. He's got really easy power, and he does it without striking out a lot. Like there's not a lot to be worried about with this profile because he does it so well and so easily. So he's a guy that I've really liked to tout, even though I've gotten a little pushback on that. Whatever. Haters gonna hate. Junior Caminero was a guy I loved. So another one, Edouard Julien. He's been great, and he's a guy that I was really excited to see. The story isn't told, right? We're going to have to wait to see how his career plays out over the next couple of years at least before we make too many proclamations about how great he is. But I had him as my number 1 second base prospect, and that was a somewhat controversial position to take. And I just was following the numbers. I do put a certain amount of trust and faith into what Scout the Statline is returning. And it was pretty conclusive. So to me, looking through those numbers, his strikeout rate is a little higher than you typically want to see with prospects, but he's seeing so many pitches. There's just like hidden power there that wasn't really showing through in his final stat lines. You would see it pop up in samples through the end of the season. And then in the AFL last year, he was incredible. Like there's just a lot of these little pieces of evidence to me that were like, I think this guy is legit. He's had a really good season. So that's one guy I like to hang my hat on. I can go on and on. How about Thomas Sajasi?
Oh,
He's a guy that we really liked. We talked about him. And he's been awesome. He's been really good. I think he's a potential impact player, and he's with the Cards now. So the Cards did make some moves.
yeah. In my top 5 article, Impact Prospects, he was one of them. I think I wrote him up right after Kobe Mayo, thinking that he could be called up early next year and make a big impact. He has that solid contact floor, and his power has really come into it. It's really like, I think he can be an impact player pretty soon.
Right. And he's a guy that's probably he's never going to rank super highly on prospect lists. There's just enough questions, and people are going to label him with the non-athlete sort of label and stuff like that. But this guy's like, he seems kind of like a complete package to me. There's a lot of Julian in him, maybe even some more power. I don't know. Like we got to wait to see what he can do, but he had a slow start to the season and finished really strong. At least he's in a little bit of a slump since moving to AAA, but really strong through the summer. Man, I don't know, Brian. I was reviewing a lot of our player evals, just kind of getting prepped for the off season, going over some of the new video footage content that I'm doing and stuff like that. We did really good with a lot of those videos that we put out there. I mean, some of the analysis I think was pretty spot on. So there's a lot to claim victories on. There's a couple things that we missed too, but it happens.
Of course there is.
Christian Santana, he's a guy that I missed. I thought he was going to be the Emmanuel Rodriguez of this year. Turns out what was looking like maybe bad luck last year is just something. It's like a hitch with him. And he still has the same great characteristics, just the batting. He's batting like 154. Can't continue to stand behind a guy like that. Because what's that going to look like at the major league level? He was batting. There was a time he was batting under 100 for a good portion of the season, just awful. So, and then he had a really good month, and I was like, maybe Christian Santana is finally, it's happening. And then it was like right back to 150 batting averages. So,
got to take the good with the bad, man. Got to take the good with the bad. There's just a lot more good than there is bad. Anyways, let's jump. I want to do some highlights, because once again, Scout Statline. My favorite portion of Scout Statline is jumping into the leaderboards, and it has the historical comps in it. And there are some big names on the historical comps, and I just want to highlight a couple of these guys. Some of the majority of them we have talked about, but I just want to put another historical comp to a name that is flying up the leaderboard. The first one is, and forgive me for saying his last name wrong, I know I'm going to do it, Chanel. Is it Nolan Chanel?
Shanuel, I think.
Shanuel?
Ryan, do you know that one?
I assumed it was Shanwell.
Okay, so we're all butchering it.
I'm going to say Chanel. I think that's Chanel, in my opinion. That is Nolan Chanel, and he gets Wade Boggs. the next one would be, the top one is Junior Caminero, and he's got Manny Ramirez, which I really like that one. I think that's a fun comp, and it really suits the way that his stats pop off the page.
I love it. Yep.
Yeah. Another highlight, Lazaro Montez. He's got Mark McGuire.
Yeah. I like the comp that people have been giving more towards like Yordan Alvarez than I do like Mark McGuire as a comp.
Okay.
But that's an interesting one. I mean, they're suggesting he's got a ton of power and maybe a little less bat than a guy like Yordan.
Yeah. But, well, let's get Montez is not a catcher either. Let's get that out of the way. He's correct. Listed as a catcher, but he hasn't played catcher in stateside ball.
Right.
So
Okay, yeah.
Because I was writing him up last week for my article, and I saw he was a catcher. I was like, oh man, but no, he hasn't started any games there.
We have him at STS as a DH, which I think he's mostly playing first base, right?
Yeah, I think first or right field is what he's mainly been playing. But still, I think that bat will play. I mean, obviously he's 18 years old, but
Yeah.
Certainly don't want a DH tag next to an 18-year-old. That's
no. Well,
that's not a
the
good
problem
sign.
is, I think he's 6'3",
Yeah.
245 or something at 18 years old. What the like?
The big dude, yeah.
It's a big boy, man.
We're gonna talk about another guy that I think, if Brian touches on him, that's similarly sized.
So yeah, since Ross already mentioned it, Jackson Holiday got the Kirby Puckett comp. I like that one as well. Kirby Puckett is one of my favorite players. I would love to see any kind of baseball player attached to that name. The next one, Xavier Isaac gets Roger Maris. Roger Maris popping up in here is a fun one too.
That's a really interesting one. I mean, you can't say that there's not many physical similarities between the two, right?
No.
Right.
But this is the other big boy. He's 6'3", 240, I think. So he's similarly sized. I just did a little digital short on, I don't know if that, you can't call it a digital short, I guess, a little video expose on Xavier Isaac, and I really like him. And I can see it when I'm looking at the projections, how it's pulling Roger Maris. A little less bat, a lot of home run power. I think we're going to see a different kind of player, though. For sure. First base masher.
Next one, we got Jackson Churio as David Wright. And David Wright is such an underrated player in history. It's almost like you should be thrown in jail if you don't mention David Wright.
He's in the Hall of Very Good.
I know, that's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Injuries sapped that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he had a full career, he's probably
for sure he would have been in.
Yeah. Really good career.
Kobe Mayo got Vladimir Guerrero Sr.
I don't love that one.
I do.
I do too.
I mean, I love Vladimir Guerrero, and I like Kobe Mayo, but I think their plate approach is so different, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I think they're kind of similar, but let's see.
I could be mistaken on this, but I feel like with Guerrero Sr., he was a free swinger, right? And he was swinging at a lot. He was putting the bat on the ball, and he was just really good at it. Kobe Mayo strikes me as he's got more swing and miss, and he's not as much of a free swinger anyway.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Let's see. I pulled up. Yeah, he definitely has more swing and miss than Guerrero. I mean, but I think where was I? He's not afraid to go out and get the ball outside the zone like Guerrero does. Not to the extreme.
Yeah.
But he's more of a free swinger than I think more than at first glance. He's more of a free swinger.
Okay. All right.
But I mean, I think it's still good comp.
Yeah, it's interesting at the very least. Yeah.
I really like that comp. I think it's a fun one. Next one, and this is one of my favorite ones that I've seen throughout the season. James Wood is Reggie Jackson. I think it makes sense to me. The last thing I want to say, and I talked with my good buddies about this. Ross was a part of the conversation. Hank Conger is popping up all over the place. I don't know how many realize this, but Hank Conger in the minors was awesome.
I remember he was supposed to be the second coming. So
Oh, his minors stats were just unreal. And I can remember some trades for Hank Conger that there were some big names attached to it. And people do not want to look back on those trades.
That's funny. What about Wyatt Langford getting Frank Robinson?
I missed that. I apologize. That's a good one as well.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Hall of
I,
Famer.
li- I like, he could be, man, Langford could be number one too. I know some of the other prospect guys out there have ranked him number one already. And he's smacking. It wouldn't surprise me if he was up this year for the stretch run.
I mean, I tweeted this about Langford just today that he checks all the boxes. So like,
yeah.
And I said, you know, I'll just throw it out there. Eric Cross put him number one, right? That's the one person I
That's
know.
who it was.
There's probably some others, but I actually think this is a really good gambit because to me, I think he checks all the boxes. He's got all the characteristics and traits you want of a number one. I'm just not quite ready to move him over guys like Jackson Holiday,
Sure.
guys like Junior Caminero who are doing it a couple years younger. But everything that I look for, he does well. So I think it's a good gambit. I think it's a good play by him, especially being the fast mover on that because, you know, it turns out to be the case and that's good. It's good for him. Yeah. I think it's a good play. So right now I have him number 3. So I'm big on Wyatt Langford. I really like him. And it's taken me a long time to even just make that Langford over Cruz leap. You know, I was really trying to make sure I was watching closely and since I started out liking Cruz that I was giving him the benefit of the doubt until I was shown otherwise. And I think I was. So I've moved him up and I've moved him up again. I had this kind of internal question about him or Carter. Carter's younger. Carter's now in the major leagues. I really like Carter. I like what he brings to the table. And I spoke with some people that I really trust from the prospecting realm. And I was like, what do you think, Carter or Langford? They were both Carter. And I finally just made this change. Might've been today or yesterday. I was like, Langford above Carter. So I've done that too. So, I mean, look at the Rangers, by the way, they got both these guys. What a tough choice to have, you know, you got 2 excellent outfielders that you get to plug in there in the future. You just got to make room for them. So yeah, I really like him. So I have him my number 3 prospect. It goes Jackson Holiday, Junior Caminero, Wyatt Langford. I love that top 3. I love that top 3.
Nice.
Go get those guys.
Yeah, if you can.
If you can.
Yeah. Be ready to pay.
Carter's holding his own in the major leagues too.
He is.
36% strikeout rate, but I mean he has home run, couple stolen bases, hitting 286.
Yep. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's what I have, fellas. Do you guys want to add anything else?
Well, Ross,
how about this? Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I had one question for you that popped up in my head. The 2 Cruzes, Ellie De La Cruz and O'Neill Cruz now. Who would you prefer? We can bring up stats from their first 100 games.
Yeah.
If you would like.
That's a really tough question. I'm probably, if we're talking about long-term dynasty hold, I'm probably going with Ellie De La Cruz. If we're talking about next year, O'Neill Cruz is going to be back to start the season, right?
Yeah, he could have started. If they were in the hunt, he would have been playing.
Yeah, I might be willing to say Cruz for 2024, I think. But long term, I think it's probably Ellie. I mean, he's 21 years old. He's got some stuff to fix. Similar profiles. I think Cruz is a little cleaner. He doesn't strike out quite as much as Ellie De La Cruz, but Cruz has got 4 years to figure that out before they're
Sure.
on the same plane. So I'm going with Ellie De La Cruz, but I do think it's relatively close, and I've seen that that comparison between those guys.
That's what.
It's really
Yeah,
interesting. And they both are. I felt the same way about both of these guys.
I know you did.
So it's interesting.
I like how you said a couple of the times you said Cruz is going to do this better. Because you can just backtrack on that and be like,
Hey.
oh, I was talking about the other Cruz.
Yeah,
That's right. If one of them pans out, I'm going to be right. Oh, no. Cruz or Cruz. How's your fantasy season going?
Oh, well, my one long time running dynasty league, it's a 14 team Roto OBP league. I kind of pushed my chips all in this year. I went out and acquired Mike Trout in, I think, early May, got rid of Jackson Holiday. Yeah, it was endorsed, I think, by you too, actually.
What was the move? Do you remember?
It was Mike Trout and maybe Kobe Mayo for Jackson Holiday. What outfielder? Maybe Brian Reynolds.
Yeah.
Maybe Jackson Holiday and Brian Reynolds.
I mean, it's unfortunate what happened with Trout getting hurt and all
Yeah.
that, but like, that's a good deal.
Yeah, but I kind of went in for, like I said, all in this year, and in August I kind of was like, I'm not making it at all. So I'm in, I think, 12th out of 14th right now, and I'm just eating it. So one of my other teams I acquired, I stepped into a league halfway through this year, and I'm fighting for first place right now. It's a 10-team league, actually with one of the guys in the Discord, and kind of battling it out. It's going to come down to the wire. I'm floating between first and third, like I said, so that's exciting.
Nice. So my big news is that I pulled off a squeaker, a really exciting matchup in the last round, the semifinals of my home league. Back in the championship, I'm gunning it out with, I don't know, a really tough team. It's going to be a bloodbath if my team shows up. They didn't show up very good in the last matchup, so we'll see. They got to be on to beat this team, and my confidence level is not extremely high, but we're gonna give them hell.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
That's all I can do.
All right. Well, that's what we have for everybody. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on with us again. I hope you come back and we can talk some more ball. And then myself, as always, Brian, and Mr. Ross R. Jensen. This is Bats and Stats.